Okay, hello and welcome. I am Haley Boyle and you're joining me here in my home studio. And today I'm going to show you how I make these little fairies. I've got some metallic polymer clay here. I use really tiny clay working tools, but I don't know where to get them. I got them as a novelty gift when I was a teenager. So today I'm going to show you how to do it with stuff you might have around. I've got the round end of a paintbrush, a thumbtack, and a disposable manicure tool here. And I've laid out some metallic clay. I've got some gold, some silver, and bronze, and copper, a little bit of glow clay, a little bit of opal clay, and I've also got my scraps nearby for color accents. I wanted to point that out first because I've noticed that when it comes to mermaids and fairies and things like this, it seems like the idea of a thin white woman is, well, that's the trope. You know, that's what you see. So I'd like to remind the makers out there to use a little diversity. And I'm using metallic today, so it doesn't really represent race or gender or anything like that, but I've also got an assortment in front of me so that there is multiple colors and a beautiful rainbow and all that stuff. So first thing I'm doing, I'm taking a ball of clay and I'm making it in a nice smooth round shape. And I want to make sure there's no weird seams showing or anything like that. And I'll take that little ball and I'll gently twist the top to make it into a little tiny, you guys see, let me focus on that a little better. Come on, it's my first tutorial. Can you tell? And I make it into a little dewdrop shape there. And boom, we have a fairy body. Now the next thing I want to do is make his wings, because once his arms and legs are on, you don't want to squish them. So I'm going to take two little balls, actually I'm going to take one little ball of opalescent clay and I'm going to split it in half. So I have two balls that are the same size. Warm them up a little bit, squeeze them, get them a little soft. And the tricky part about making the wings, these tiny little wings, is you want them to be even. So as I'm rolling them, I feel one's a little bit bigger than the other. I smooth some clay over to the other one. And I want them to be equal, and because I want them to match, I stick with a pretty basic shape. So I'm going to shape them into like a little diamond. There we go. Now you can do them both exactly the same. You don't have to do mirror images because you can just flip one. So for me, it's natural to sort of swoop them up to the right. So that's what I do. And then, let's see, I compare them. And they're looking pretty close. So what I'm going to do at this point is put a little bit of detail on the wings. Little veins. When you're pressing into the clay to make lines and indents, you want to kind of press slow but firm, because you want to move the clay out of the way, not cause it to like pop up or make little shavings. So be kind of intentional not to push the clay in front of the tool, but to press it down. And as you see, because I'm pressing down to make the veins, it has changed the shape of the wing slightly, but that's fine because we're going to take care of that in the next step. Okay, just be patient. And remember, if you make a mistake, it's okay. It's polymer, you can fix it. So I'm going to just put these back into shape a little bit before I flip them over and do the other side. Okay, because it's a sculpture, not a painting. We got to do the back and the front. What is that? What do I got there? A little bit of, it's probably dog hair. It's one of the biggest challenges is trying to keep dust, glue, remnants, dog hair, cat hair. I don't have a cat right now, but out of the sculptures. Okay, so I'm going to put veins on the other side real quick. Not too quick, because you don't want it to all start popping up on you. Just like their little leaves, just to give them a little bit of depth of life there. Oh, these wings are starting to take on a kind of angelic shape that I'm rather enjoying. So at this point, I'm going to very gently lay the wings over each other. So I don't want them to stick, but I want to make sure that they match. And I'm going to shape them sort of simultaneously. And then this particular fairy, because he's tiny and the parts are going to want to fall off and I don't want them to get overworked or squished, what I'm going to do is gently twist the ends of these wings together. I'm going to pick up my little teardrop shape here and use my thumbtack to put a little hole right above the bulb and stick this little tip into that hole. I'm going to work it in there a little bit. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to use my stick to give him a little butt crack because I think butts on fairies are just adorable. And I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to let those wings rest. Now, here's the deal. Because I've used opalescent clay for the wings, it means it's a translucent with opalescent flakes in it. Once it cools down, it's going to get real stiff. It's going to want to crack. It can be a big pain in the neck. So what I'm going to do at this stage is I'm going to take my wax paper that I'm going to cook them on and just a little piece, because we don't want them to lie completely flat. I'm going to take a tiny piece of wax paper and lay it over. And I'm going to pick this guy up and I'm going to lay him over the wax paper like so. This part, for some reason, I do all this detail work so easily, but like laying them on the wax paper always makes me have a coronary. All right, there we go. Stay. Okay, so now our wings won't be completely flat. There'll be like a little bit of depth to the sculpture, and there we go. So now we can add some arms and legs. Gosh, can you guys even see it? It's like, I'm trying to do a tutorial for something that's smaller than my pinky, and I feel like what you're seeing is close-ups of my giant hands. So, all right, for arms and legs, I find that I need less clay than I think. For example, I just pulled off this much clay to do an arm, and that's more than enough to do both arms. So I'm going to split it in half. But I think this might be more like leg portions. We'll see in a second when I roll them out. Oh, I think we can make little chubby arms out of those. Let's see, what should we have this guy doing? I'm going to have this particular fairy looking off into the distance. So I'm going to give him one curved arm that's going to go up and attach to his head when I eventually put that on. And the other one is going to stick off to the side like so. Now I've barely attached it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of brace it ever so gently. Can you see that? With the tip of my finger. And I'm going to use the round end of this paintbrush to just tap it. Tap, 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 tap. Because I want it to bond nice and tight, but I don't want it to not be smooth. I want a nice, natural looking shoulder. I'm going to squish it just a little bit. Okay, it's looking pretty good so far. Now I'm going to get some legs. Squeezing off a couple more little pieces. I know you might not know me in real life, but I actually am a giant, so it's actually appropriate that I have like these giant hands on camera making this tiny little thing, because this is what I'm like in real life. Ginormous. Okay, and I'm going to have one straight leg, and he's going to have the other leg bent and propped against the straight leg, like he's in flight and he's looking for something. Or she, whomever. That part's not important. They're fairies, so they can be whatever. Trying to get a good kneecap here is a little difficult because it's nothing's creepier than like an overly rounded joint on a body. Even if it's a fantasy creature, if the joint is super round, it makes them look unnatural. And it's something, a small something you can do to correct that can take your sculpture to the next level from looking like a child did it. And I've just dropped my tissue paper, which is something I'll probably do about 1,000 times and go crazy. I press that leg on with my giant fingers. I'm going to come over to the other side. Get the other leg nice and even. And see, this leg is sort of propped against this leg because she's in flight, he's in flight. Don't squeeze the wings, Hale. Don't break the wings because they're stiff now. I'm totally breaking the wings. Like I said, it's Fimo. If you smoosh it, you break it, it's okay. You can fix a lot more than you think. You can start again. It's not the end of the world. Practice makes perfect. Or, practice makes ability. Nobody's perfect. Okay, so before I attach this other arm, I'm going to do the head real quick. This particular fairy is a mushroom fairy, which I've been favoring lately because something about making a beautiful flower and then smashing it onto the head of the fairy makes me a bit sad. So I'm going to do a mushroom fairy. So I'm taking a little bit of clay. Now, here's another tip. So I just dropped a piece of clay and I'm all distracted by it. You want them to be cute, so you want the head to be slightly large in proportion to the body, similar to the way an infant's head is large compared to their body, because it's just cuter. So you make the head a bit large. Oh, another thing is when you're doing the belly button, if you place the belly button a bit higher than what's natural, it tends to be cuter than if you put it down where it belongs. It gives more of like a sort of a sexy impression. So I'm going to go to my scraps. I'm going to grab some of this deep red, and I believe this is glow I have on the bottom here. And I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to do the whole thing so you can see how I do it. So I'll grab them sort of separately. Give me a piece of this white. And I'll roll up the red and put some little white speckles into it. So I'll rip off tiny pieces and roll them up and put them onto the red for the spots on the mushroom. Teeny tiny little spots. And then roll that red up real quick like that. Get a nice flat piece of the white and put it where you feel like the bottom of the mushroom would be. Squeeze it. Oops, squeeze it all the way around. Got off camera there. It's first tutorial. Bound to happen. Okay. And then I'm going to roll it a little bit to give it a little bit of a point. Use the round tip of that paintbrush to make an indenture for the head to fit into. It's going to be like a little mushroom bonnet on that head. So you got to open it up. Ooh, I'm running out of camera space. Put some little lines in there so it looks like a mushroom. Pop the head in, like rushing at this point because I'm going to run out of camera space and I want to finish this in one take, darn it. And I'm going to make the hole in the bottom of the head with a thumbtack, place the head onto the point, and roll it back and forth just a little bit, wiggle it into place. And then I'm going to take this arm and attach it where it goes. And like I said, this guy's going to be with his hand up here looking off into the distance. Round tip of the paintbrush to push it into place. Okay, so it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn cute. If you can see that, that is a little metallic mushroom fairy, and that's how I do it. Although I usually take a bit more time and care to do it. I hope that you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for joining me, and hopefully I'll be back and a little bit better at this next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.